What's up guys, welcome to my very first tutorial on my YouTube channel. Today I'm gonna explain to you how I do my lighting and my shadows on my subjects. It's actually pretty simple if you get a hand of it. I hope it's gonna be helpful, and if you don't mind, I would appreciate you giving this video a simple like and comment, and don't forget to subscribe if you want to support me and be notified when I upload. So I think without further ado, let's hop right into the tutorial. So this is my subject for today's design. I chose a very simple render without any lighting from Blender to make it the best I can by myself. So I'm gonna explain to you how I do the lightings and how I do my shadows on the subject. It works. I took a Fortnite render this time, but it works literally on everything. You could put a microwave there, I don't care. So there's a few things you have to keep in mind when doing the lighting and shadows is where your light source is coming from. So if the light source, let's put a lighting like that. If the light source is coming, for example, from the back, my bad, like that. If the light source is coming from the right side or left or right or from top. So you have to consider the direction of your light source. So that's the first important point. And second of all is the intensity. So if you have like a very strong light, it's gonna be your lighting on your subject and shadows will be stronger than if you have, for example, a little less strong light, for example. So that's the second thing that's really important when you wanna do the lighting on your subject. So let's start. Let's put one light here, one light on the left and one on the right. So we have two light sources hitting the skin. So let's first of all see what parts of the subject the light source would hit. So I'm just gonna paint yellow so you can clearly see what parts it's gonna hit, like the lighting, not the shadows. Okay, so the light source is coming from here and from here. It's gonna hit almost everything. What I do is I take the exposure here. Here you can see the settings. I'm gonna clipping mask it to the subject. So I put this up a little bit just until I'm pretty happy with it. If it's like not too bright or whatever on the exposure. And then I go down to the gamma correction and I go to the left to take away some contrast. So to go down in the gamma correction. Okay, so now I have the lighting overall on the body, but I don't want that. I just want the lighting on the specific areas where I want it. So I press Ctrl I to invert the layer mask. And then I'm gonna start painting with a 0% hardness and 1% flow. I'm gonna start doing all the all the lighting where the light source is coming from. Okay, so I'm doing the right side first. So very slowly and precisely I'm gonna work on the lighting of the right side. I'm gonna speed up this process because it's gonna take a little time, but keep in mind to have a good lighting and shadows, you need to be precise. It's all about the precision of your lighting and shadows that's gonna make it more realistic. So I'm gonna speed up and I'll see you in a few seconds. So now that we've done the lighting, I'm gonna show you the before and after on the lighting. So you see that it already makes a huge difference just on the lighting. So I only made the parts that I put in yellow before in the beginning of the tutorial to show you which parts of the subject are gonna be affected by the light. Now we will continue with the shadows, and that's gonna be the same exposure, and this time instead of going to the right with the exposure, I'm gonna go to the left to darken up. And instead of going left with the gamma correction, I'm gonna go to the right. I'm not always using a specific number. It's just I'm keeping myself in between a few certain number, because you're gonna see yourself like you're not going to want to go to -5. It's just going to be too much. It's just personal preference. You just see at what point it looks good for you. So I'm gonna stay on -1 exposure and 0.83 gamma correction, I think. Yeah, that looks good. So now again, I'm gonna press Ctrl-I to invert the shadows, so I can draw exactly which spots I want my shadows to be. And as the lights are coming from the back here and here, it's not gonna affect, the light doesn't affect this whole part here and also this here. Okay, so logically, if the light doesn't affect the front parts of the subject, the front parts should be darker. And that's where my shadows come in. So now again, I'm gonna speed up this part, so because it takes a few minutes, because I want to make it precise as possible, because as I said before, you want your lighting and shadows to be precise to make it more realistic. So I'll see you in a few seconds. So now that I'm finished with the shadows, I'm gonna show you how it looks without and with the shadows. So this is without and this is with the shadows. And as you can see, the shadows make the subject way more realistic. So it actually creates a more depth in the subject. This is again without, this is with shadows, and I'm gonna turn off the lighting and the shadows. Wait, let me just rename this real quick, shadows. I'm gonna take off the shadows and the lighting for you to see the difference it makes. Look how insane the difference is. This is without anything and this is with lighting and shadows. And now what I like to do is create even more depth into my subject, and I do this by duplicating the shadows, clipping masking it to the subject. I delete the layer mask and I create a new one. And instead of a 1% flow brush, I'm just gonna put it up to around 15 and just do the darker parts of the skin again to create some more depth. So I'm just gonna do these type of details in the skin, you know, where the lighting, where the dark parts can be even a bit darker, a bit too much here, here. And this is gonna create even more the effect of depth in the subject. So now my subject looks like this, and I'm gonna show you without the duplicate. Look how much depth we created in the subject just by adding these few darker parts in the subject. And I'm gonna show you without it and with lighting and shadows, and look how insane that difference is. The difference is huge. It's making this subject look way more attractive, way more realistic. And yeah, and that's just by being precise with my lighting and shadows and with only using exposure tool. And the good thing about using that technique is that you can always change the exposure again. If you want your shadows to be even a bit more darker, you can slide down your exposure more to the left, or if you want your lighting to be a little bit more brighter, then you can put it more to the right. as you can see here. And you can really personalize and always change your shadows as you want. And that is great with that technique. So I think I'm gonna keep it like that because it looks great like that. Look at the difference, it's huge. So that was it for my very first tutorial about my lighting and shadows technique. I hope you liked it, and if you liked it, feel free to leave a little like down there and subscribe and leave a comment on what part you like the most, and if you need help with anything, I'm gonna try and reply. If this video gets good feedback, I'm gonna probably do some other tutorials, maybe on highlights for the next one, or how to blend in your subject into the background. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.